Okay, Byrchall High School, GCSE PE OCR syllabus. This podcast is for Paper 2. This is in the sports psychology section. We're looking at goal setting and mental preparation today. So, again, just remember that as with all these podcasts, these are audio podcasts, so there's normally nothing to look at on the screen. Getting it off YouTube, it's just an audio podcast for headphones and listening, the alternative way of revising. So I said we're in section 2.2, the sports psychology section. We are looking at goal setting, which target setting, which you probably call SMART targets in lessons, and we'll also be looking at mental preparation techniques. We're going to start with goal setting. There's two of us here today. There's myself, and I've got Miss Ashby with me today, so you're going to hear both of our voices on this particular podcast. First thing we'll look at is goal setting. So we're looking at why people set goals, what is the reason or what are the motivation behind people setting goals, why do they bother, and then we're going to look at the specific elements of setting SMART targets. Often on the questions on the exam when we look at goal setting, they'll ask you what maybe SMART targets are, and then they will also ask you why people set targets at all, why do they bother to set a goal. And there's three main reasons for that. The first one is for motivation. So if you have a goal, it means that you've got something to strive for, something to try and reach, and it might add motivation for you to go out there and train and practice, so you actually move towards that goal and obviously eventually hopefully hit that goal. So motivation is a key reason to set a goal. Second reason is to adhere to exercise. So you may be already exercising and you want to keep going at it, and it gives you a reason to continue. So it pushes people to stick with an exercise program. So if you're going, you've got a target at the gym, say, to lift a certain weight, it might help you stick to that program to get there. So it makes you adhere to exercise, keeps you trained. The third main reason for goal setting is to optimize or improve your actual performance level. So if you've got a target, something that you're working towards, hopefully it will actually increase your skill level, increase your performance, so that you can actually get better at whatever particular skill you are trying to do, or whatever sport you're playing. So it actually helps you improve your performance. So three reasons to do goals: motivate the performer, to make you stick at the exercise called exercise adherence, and to improve your performance level. Now, within that, obviously, we've got what's called SMART targets. You should all know already that SMART targets, or SMART, is an anagram for specific, measurable, achievable, recorded, and timed. We'll talk about each one, each element of that and what it actually means. And then at the end, we'll talk about how you would set an overall SMART target for a performance. So, Miss, you're going to do the first one. You're going to talk about the specific elements of SMART targets.
So, goals need to be specific, meaning they're clear and focused for your sport. If you're a swimmer, your goal needs to be related to swimming. So, for example, you are a 200-metre breaststroker. You want to require your goal to improve your time for your 200-metre breaststroke time.
Okay, so making sure it's specific will help you, obviously, will hopefully stick to it, and also make sure it's very measurable, so you can get there, which is what leads us on to measurable, which is our next part. So we've got specific and measurable. So measurable means you actually know how well you're doing, how effectively you are moving towards that goal. That could be anything. It could be a time, it could be a distance, it could be a number of goals, a number of saves, it could be absolutely anything, as long as you can measure it. So if you're a long jumper trying to improve your long jump's distance, you can physically measure that with a tape measure. If you're a centre forward in football and you've got a target of goals for the season, say 25 goals, it's easy to measure. You just look at your goals scored. If you on a swimmer, like Miss mentioned before, and you're trying to improve your time, you can measure the time on a stopwatch. It has to be measurable to see if you're moving towards it, and then eventually see if you've actually completed your target.
The next one's achievable. So your goal needs to be realistic. If it's not realistic and you try and achieve your goal, you can lose motivation and eventually drop out of the sport.
Yeah, we've all done this. So you set a target that's way too hard, and then actually after a certain period of time you realise you're not going to get there, so you, instead of either reassessing your goal, you just stop doing it.
Yeah. So, for example, in a rugby game, a team may score 2 tries in the first half, so in the second half they aim to score 3. If it was an unrealistic goal, they would aim to score another 8 tries in the second half, having only scored 2 in the first.
Yeah, okay. So you've got to make those targets something that you can realistically achieve. However long or short that target is, it must be achievable, because it doesn't. If you get there early, that's fine. You can reset it and make it harder and then go on again. But if you're never going to get there and it's unachievable, it becomes pointless. I think we've had exam questions in the past, and it's based smart targets around a 100-metre sprinter. So it said whatever the name they give in the exam, runs 100 metres in 12.5 seconds, set a smart target. And they've given lots of elements of smart, but they've said something like, okay, to run it in 9 seconds. Well, to improve your time by 3.5 seconds in 100 metres is basically impossible. You might improve it by a tenth of a second, or maybe 0.2 of a second if you're doing really well, but it's got to be achievable. Similarly, if it was football, you're not going to say to score 80 goals in the season, because unless you're Messi, that just doesn't happen. It's got to be achievable, and it's got to be realistic. On to the next one. So we've got specific, measurable, achievable. We're now on to recorded. We need to make sure that you can log what you're doing to see if you're moving towards the goal, and maybe actually eventually adapt the target to make it harder or easier. So you have to be able to actually record it. So that could be, again, writing down if you're actually improving, or making sure you can measure and then record how your progress is going towards that target. If it's in a gym, it might be the weight you're lifting or the number of sets and reps you're doing. If you're a netball, it might be the number of goal attempts you've had, or goals scored. If you're a football, it could be shots on target or goals scored, whatever. But you've got to be able to actually physically measure your progress working towards that goal.
And related to that one is timed. So this means your goal has to have a time frame to which you want to achieve it. If you have a long-term goal, you may have shorter-term goals that build up to an overall achievement of the long-term goals. So, for example, you may aim to go to the gym 3 times a week in order to lose, let's say, like £2 within that 1 week.
Yeah, I think it's a big mistake people make is they don't make it time bound. So I can hit it whenever. So I'll improve my heaviest weight lifted to 50 kilograms by whenever. If you don't make it time bound, you don't say when you've got to do it by, it's easy to slack off and say, well, I'll do it the week after, I'll do it the week after. You have to set it by a particular time period to make sure that you're working towards that goal. So SMART principles are specific, measurable, achievable, recorded, and time bound. We've had a lot of questions about this. We've actually had 6 mark questions on this, asking you about each element and then why you set the targets, going back to the motivation, optimise performance, and adhere to exercise. If the exam asks you to actually set a SMART target, which it could do, make sure you think about all elements of that. So, for instance, you could set that target of, a SMART target for a sprinter would be to knock 0.02 of a second off their personal best in a 6-week time period. It's specific because I've said exactly what I've got to do. It's measurable because I can measure it in time. It's achievable because I'm only knocking 0.02 of a second off. It's recorded. I can record that on a stopwatch. And it's timed. I've got to do it in a 6-week period. If you don't use any of those, if you miss out any part of that, it doesn't become a SMART target. Similarly, like you might say, a footballer, you could say to score 20 goals over a season. It's specific, how many goals. It's measurable. Just do goal charts. Achievable. If you're a centre forward and you hopefully a half decent one, you should be scoring 20 goals in a season. It's recorded because I can just measure record each goal I score, and I've said I've got to do it in a season. It must hit all of those elements to be a SMART target, and you need to talk about each one and why people set them, which we explained at the start. So that's the first part of this podcast. The second part of this one is about mental preparation. Mental preparation is really done before people take part in a physical activity. So sometimes it can be integrated as part of a warm-up, sometimes it's done in a changing room, sometimes it could be done at home before you start. You've all heard the sort of terms getting in the zone, getting your head in the right place. This is what we're talking about, how people deal with the level of stress and anxiety and the tension that they might be under, and that could be at any level. If you're nervous, whatever else before a competition, how they deal with that to make sure they perform at a good standard. And there are 4 main methods of mental preparation, 4 methods that you need to know and need to be able to discuss as part of your exam. Miss, the first one.
The first one is imagery. This is where a performer will, in their mind, create pictures of the movement and the feeling of the skill that they are performing, or they will relax in a place that they are comfortable with to reduce their nerves and anxiety.
Yeah, absolutely. So you might get, I don't know, a player imagining lifting a cup at the end. So they haven't started the game yet, but they're putting themselves in the nice place after it where they've lifted the cup or scored the goal. It's about imagining those good feelings, those pleasurable, nice bits of it, that when you've won or you've won your battle or whatever it may be, just to put you in a good place and calm your nerves down. Imagery, imagining yourself winning or doing something particularly positive. So that's imagery. The second one is called mental rehearsal. So mental rehearsal is where you go through the activity in your mind. You actually play out the game or the performance in your mind prior to taking part. Again, to control your anxiety levels, to put you in the right place. There are two types of mental rehearsal. One is called internal. So internal mental rehearsal is where you imagine yourself doing the activity, but you actually do it as if you are there yourself. So imagine it's football, the ball goes through, you imagine yourself chasing after the ball, you can see the ball ahead of you and the goalkeeper comes out and you're slotted in the corner. That's internal imagery, where you actually put yourself as if you're actually doing it. The other type of mental rehearsal is called external mental rehearsal. And this is where you almost do it from outside your body. So this might mean, if I take the same example, a centre forward going through on goal, you imagine yourself in the crowd and you watch yourself go through on the goalie and then you slot it. So you put yourself in it's called external imagery. You imagine that you're not in your own body, you're external to your own body and you're watching yourself perform something positively, ideally, hopefully doing something well so that it calms you down and puts you in a good place. With all these things, obviously, it takes practice to do these type of things. But just to recap again, internal mental rehearsal is where you imagine you're actually doing it, and external mental rehearsal is where you watch yourself doing it from almost from out of body, from afar. Next one, Miss.
Selective attention. So we've all been in situations where something can distract us, but the best athletes can eliminate the distractions and focus on only the relevant information. So for example, if you're a footballer and you're taking a penalty shot, you don't want to be focusing on the crowd behind the goal. All you want to focus on is where the goalkeeper is, the ball, and the goal itself.
Yeah, absolutely. You just blocking out the bad and harnessing the good. I think that's a good example. Penalty shootouts in front of huge crowds. I believe place kicking in rugby union as well. So last minute of a game and you've got a conversion to try and win a game. So you've got to block out the crowd, block out the teammates, block out the opposition who might be trying to put you off, block out everything apart from just completing that skill, striking the ball to the best of your ability, selecting the things that require your attention and blocking out the bad ones. So that's the third one. And the final one is positive thinking, which is sometimes called self-talk. And you've probably all done this to some degree. And you've seen people do this. And this is where you talk to yourself or think about positive things from past performances or past competitions that you've done well to increase your confidence. So you might think about when you won the last match and you played well in that game, so it gives you a bit more confidence in yourself, increases your self-confidence. Or you might think about the last time you played a particular player and you beat them. You put yourself in a good place, you talk yourself into a good place so that you reduce any nerves. I think it is probably worth mentioning that positive self-talk is really effective, but there's also, some people can do negative self-talk as well, where you put yourself in a bad place. You're very aware of what you're doing, because some people actually manage to think about negative things, missing a tackle, missing a shot, or a player being better than them. And that could actually make you more nervous and damage your performance. So positive self-thinking or positive self-talk is increasing your confidence by thinking about previous things you've done well, making yourself feel good about yourself. So 4 mental preparation techniques: imagery, mental rehearsal, of which there's internal and external, selective attention, and positive thinking. Again, this could be a 6-mark question in the exam. I'm not sure. If it is a 6-mark question, we've drummed in this to you a number of times, please do you write it just like you would write an English essay, capital letters, full stops, etc., paragraphs.
Grammar.
Yeah, full spelling, punctuation, grammar is important. You don't bullet point, you're writing full sentences and paragraphs, just like you would do in an English exam. Try and give that full level of explanation. If it asked you about mental preparation, you could talk about more than one. You maybe have to pull in some other elements of the course. So you might talk about physical, mental, social benefits, for instance, and then obviously talk about mental preparation techniques. It might link it to a warm-up, that you would use mental preparation as part of a warm-up and the other elements of a warm-up. Make sure you give as much information as you possibly can and give sporting examples if that's appropriate. Sometimes on these longer questions, there's also a picture of a particular sport. and they ask you to talk about that. So make sure you actually, if it does do that, you are making your answers relevant to what you are looking at on the paper. So in this particular podcast, we've looked at goal setting, which is why people set goals, and SMART targets, and we've also looked at mental preparation techniques, of which there are 4, and how they would be implemented, and the type of scenarios in which they would be used. So that's the end of this podcast. I said this is a series of podcasts, so it's all between 10 and 20 minutes. So do go on to another one, make notes if needed, and use the other revision tools we've given you.